Hi, I'm Cherien Dabis. I'm here with a feature film called Amreeka. The film is a Palestinian-American immigrant story. It's about a Palestinian single mom who leaves her homeland for the heartland, basically, to secure a better future for her 16-year-old son. And the story sort of follows their journey as they try and overcome the obstacles of where they end up landing in rural Illinois, and some of the prejudices and things that they face there. But it's a comedy. So it's actually a drama with a lot of humor.
Cherien, on your film, since you had a longer kind of gestation for it, and you're obviously the writer-director, what were the key steps practically for getting Amreeka made? Like, was it getting Christina on as producer, or?
Well, as I said, I started writing the script back in 2003. I was a graduate film student at Columbia. I wasn't working just full-time on Amreeka. I was doing a lot of other things at the same time, actually. I made a short film in '05 that took me to the West Bank, where I shot, and then was here at Sundance in '07. I wrote a number of other screenplays during that 5 years. I was writing on a television show for Showtime as well. But what I did do during those years that I think was most helpful and really, and I actually said this to Josh last night, and it's really so true of this particular film. When I went into film school, I was so afraid that I wasn't talented that I just decided I would work my butt off, and that would make up for any talent that I lacked. So it became this crazy work ethic. And I decided that I was going to apply for everything. Like anything I could possibly find out about, I would apply for and try and get into, like grants and programs and things. And I started sort of tapping into all of that and finding out about things and applying to things. And I truly believe Amreeka would not have gotten made without the support of the independent film community. I ended up doing a couple of the key things were that the first thing I did was the Film Independent Directors Lab. Where I shot scenes from the screenplay and actually met my cinematographer, and we sort of found the visual style for the film. And I really gained confidence as a director through that lab. And then I did the Sundance Middle East Screenwriters Lab, which really helped me sort of develop the script further, and also kind of also helped prepare me, because it again gave me confidence. Everyone thought, look, your script is really, it's ready, like go make your movie. After that, I was actually featured in Filmmaker magazine, and the person who's now my producer basically found me in Filmmaker and emailed me, and we started chatting. And prior to that, I had been taking the script around to all these producers and companies, and it was around 2004, 2005, and everyone was looking for sort of Iraq War dramas. It was like the renditions and the movies like that, and the comments I kept getting were that Amreeka was too light and too culturally specific, which basically just means too Arab. So so I was like, okay, well, I mean, it's an immigrant story, so if it wasn't Arab, then it wouldn't be an immigrant story. So it was kind of like, went against what the project was. But what I decided, or what I realized actually after having just a slew of meetings in a number of different places, was that I needed to rely on my own community to get this movie made. So when Christina, my producer, emailed me and I found out that her mother was born in Haifa and raised in Beirut, and she had a passion for Middle Eastern stories, and she read the script and thought it was hilarious, I was like, okay, this is awesome, like, you get it. And that meant a lot to me. And she was a first-time producer, but prior to that I had been doing it all on my own, so it was like great. And she was really just completely aggressive and tenacious and a go-getter, and it was amazing. So we made a really good team, and I continued the process of just applying for everything, and applied to Tribeca All Access, and in 2007 got in, and that's where we met our executive producer, Alicia Sams, who's also Arab American and who helped us bring on Arab American private equity, and that was the first piece of our financing. And once that came in, it was sort of like everything else just became easier.
When was that, 2006?
That was 2007. Yeah, so we closed that in late '07, and then we did some pre-sales in the Middle East to Showtime Arabia and Rotana. And it was actually the first time ever that there's a lot of firsts on this film. It's like, I'm a first-time writer-director, Christine's a first-time producer, our investor's a first-time investor in film. So in these pre-sales, it was the first time that these Middle Eastern broadcaster and theatrical distributors invested in an international film. So it was kind of a really cool, we've had a lot of good luck with that. And then we actually we ended up shooting in Canada. Christina's Canadian, and we got provincial equity from Manitoba to shoot there, and tax credits made it really worthwhile for us to shoot Canada for the U.S. So that's what we ended up doing. To pay the bills, I was writing on The L Word. I was on that for 3 seasons, and that was actually an incredible learning experience as well. I started off as a staff writer and then became a story editor and then was a co-producer and was, they shot in Vancouver and I was up there a lot during production, so it was really great to just be on set and sort of see how it all works and how quickly everything moves. And to keep my spirits up, I made a short film back in 2005. I also really wanted to shoot in Palestine because Amreeka, the first part of it, takes place there, and I hadn't ever shot there before, so my entire short film was shot there. And I just kept writing other things and, sort of juggling a number of projects, seeing what would go, but Amreeka was always the sort of passion, the one I was most passionate about, the one I was sort of pushing the most. We actually had a sales agent before we went into production. Charlotte Mickey came on pretty early on in the process, based on the script and based on my short film. And then when we were in post-production in the fall, Josh actually hooked us up with Jerome DeBose and Rena Ronson over at William Morris. So before we found out about Sundance, we already had our sales agent, our foreign sales and domestic sales reps. And so we were actually in really good shape. The timing worked out really well because we shot last year, March through May, and then I edited in New York over the summer, and we did post-production in the fall. And so by the time we found out about Sundance, that we had locked picture, and we were just, we were already really far along in the post process. And we brought on a publicist, Jim Dobson, working with him as well. And that was the whole team.
Mm-hmm. Great.
I have sort of a similar process, but it sort of, for me, depends on the project and depends on how well I know the story. If I know the characters, like my film Amreeka is semi-autobiographical, and I knew those people so well. So I didn't need to write out anything about character. I don't even think I outlined. I think I just dove into that one, and I frequently write out of order. I think the most important thing for me is to feel like I'm writing. So I do a couple of things. One is that I permit myself to write shit. In fact, I make it my goal. So and it really helps because you don't stop yourself up. There's so many voices in your head that tell you like this is horrible. And I just think to myself, oh, it's a placeholder. I'm going to rewrite this 500 times anyway, and I'll come up with something better later. And it totally works. And I write out of order because if I don't want to feel like I get stuck. If I don't know what scene is going to come next, but I know what scene might come, like 10 scenes from now, then I just write that one. And then I go back and, it's sort of fitting together. It's like a puzzle or something. I go back and I try and figure out what the best course of events would be for what happens in between those scenes. I've actually more recently, after doing television, on television you do really detailed, first you do a synopsis for approval by the network, and then you do a really detailed outline. And I actually found that to be really helpful, so I've kind of started doing that more now. Sort of just plotting out the story, and but I go back and forth. Like sometimes I'll start an outline and then I'll get really excited and be like, oh, I'm ready, and I'll just start writing. So it sort of depends. But actually, you were talking. There's a really great book that I want to recommend because we were talking about character and the importance of knowing your character and the importance of letting your characters determine your plot rather than you determining the plot and then sort of imposing it upon your characters. There's a great book called The Art of Dramatic Writing. I don't know if any of you guys have read it.
Yeah.
But there's a whole list of questions that you can answer for each character in your script, and I've actually found that to be really helpful, and I try and keep that book in mind every time I write. Amreeka was not my first script. I wrote another script before it in film school. It was my second script, but my first feature. And I've written, I think, like 5 screenplays, 4 of which will probably never see the light of day because I've lost interest. And actually, no, more than that. I've written like 7. Wow, that's a lot. And 2 to 3 that hopefully I'll just keep rewriting and we'll get out there someday.